Hello and welcome to part 2 of setting up my file. This is a continuation from MicroStation Connect setting up a new file. This is part 2. In this video I thought we'll go through snaps, setting up your dimension styles, your text styles and your levels, and maybe how to insert a CAD cell. Okay, so earlier we spoke about different tabs. We spoke about the home tab, which we've been using, and under home there's various panels. So later on you would find yourself using the placement for drawing and the modify a lot more. Today what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be using the primary, particularly we are going to be using the level manager to set up your levels. Okay, now we are also going to be setting up your dimension styles and the text styles. Now to set up your dimension styles and text styles, we are going to be using the annotate tab. Okay, so we're going to change tabs from home to annotate. Now what's going to happen is, when I selected my annotate tab, all the tools in the panels just changed. Okay, so particularly today we're going to be using the dimension styles, so setting up dimension styles and setting up text styles. So if I go to this little corner here, that's called as a dialog launcher. So text style dialog launcher, if I click on that, it opens up a dialog box like this. Now we do have two options. One is to create a new style or just edit the existing or the default text style. Okay, so the easy way to do it is just edit the default text style, and we'll go ahead with that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to stay in general. Now currently the height and width are set to 250. It's massive. I'm just going to change that to 6. So every time I type in a text, the height and width of that text is going to be 6 millimeters. Okay, now it saves automatically. So if I close this, it's automatically saved. How do I check? If I go back and click on that, there you go. Or if I click on place text, okay, and just type in name. Okay, there you go. Okay, how do I know the height is is 6? Because previously we already went through the grid distances, grid master and grid references, and we know that this total length of one grid box is 10 millimeters. So there's 2 spacing down, 2 spaces on top, and therefore that is 6. So the height and width of my text is set to 6. Next I'm going to go to the dimension styles and again go to the dialog launcher. So I'm going to click on dimension styles. Okay, now this is a little bit more tricky because there's a few tabs I have to go through. So again the same principle applies here. I could create a new style and then save it, or I could just change the default style and use it. Okay, now the easy way to do it is just change the default style. If you're using more than one font in your text or more than one height for your dimensions, or having different styles, you can create multiple styles. Again, looking back from this unit's point of view, it's not required. You just have one style for each and you're going to be using that, except when you get to tolerances. Okay, so we'll talk about that then. So for now I'm just going to go to geometry. Okay, now the only thing I'm going to change here is the arrowheads. So what I'm going to do is, see this terminator arrowhead. So that's the arrowhead. Currently it's set to open. I do not want it to to be open. So I'm going to change the style. So click on the drop down arrow. Now depending on your task sheet, you'll have to change it to either filled or closed. So today I'm just going to change it to filled. Now we already know that the arrowheads are at a ratio of 3:1, and you can have a preview here. So if I change the width to 1.5 and keep the height to 0.5, okay, you would see that automatically reflects the changes here. Okay, so I'm going to go to units. So I've set my terminators to fill, so arrowheads are filled, and the proportions for the arrowhead is 1.5 to 0.5. So that means 3:1. Units, I'm not going to change anything here, but if you have noticed that the unit is set to millimeters. Okay, so if you look here, the units are set to millimeters. Now when I set up my file, I set up my units to be in millimeters, so that's reflecting the changes here. Okay, now again, if you've noticed, when you open up this dialog box, the dialog box is grayed out, so it doesn't actually allow you to change anything because that is fixed. So when you open this or you click on units and you notice that it's not showing millimeters but it's showing meters, you cannot change it here. You need to go back to your settings and change your file settings to millimeters. Okay, next I'm going to go to text, and again I'm going to turn on the height and width. Now the text height and width is for dimensions is always smaller than when you label it. So I'm going to give this as 4. Again, please look at the task sheets for the exact number. In this, just for this tutorial, I'm showing it as 4. So I've got my height and width as 4. I'm not going to use the other two for now. I'm going to close this. It automatically saves. So if I go back here and click on that, it's filled. 1.5.5 units are in millimeters, and text is 4 and 4. Done. So that's done. If I want to delete this, select element, pick the element and delete. Okay, it's as simple as that. Now one more thing that I was going to show you is snaps. How do you set up your snaps? Okay, now for this we're going to be changing the tabs again. I'm going to go to the tab drawing aid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on drawing aid. Now if you noticed, automatically all the tools here or the panels changed. I'm specifically interested in this panel. That panel is called snaps. So what I'm going to do here is, again, there's a dialog launcher here. If I click on that, see here, it tells me that it's enabled. I'm going to close that. Now if I right click on that, okay, it says pin and unpin. Okay, so currently the snaps panel is only in the drawing aid. Now if I say pin it to all workflows, see what happens. It's no longer there. It's no longer there. It just moved to the corner. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that, and it just moved here because it's fixed. Now see what's going to happen is, if I go to home, so from drawing aid, if I click on home, that snap panel box with all the tools is fixed there. So no matter which tab I go to, everywhere I will have those snaps. Now that's quite handy because you're going to spend a lot of time in this tab called home. Okay, and so I would prefer that you have your snaps here. Okay, at any point if you feel you don't want it, you can always remove the pin and send it back only to the drawing aid, but for now I'm going to keep it. Okay, Now, what are these snaps and how you're going to use it? Basically, if I've got, say I've got a circle, okay, I've got a different circle there, and maybe I've got a line, okay. So I want to draw a line from this midpoint. See how it automatically is picking up endpoint and midpoint? So I'm drawing a line from this endpoint. Say I want to draw it to the center point, or I want to draw it tangential to one of the arcs, okay? So I can go here, select tangent. See that? Can you see that? Tangent. Again, if I want to draw a line from here tangential to this, by default I can't. So if I click on tangent, there you go. I've got a tangential line. Again, if I want to pick up the midpoint of a circle, okay, see that? Automatically picked up the midpoint. Okay. If I want to draw a perpendicular line or an intersecting point, I can do that as well. So for perpendicular line, say perpendicular, see, to this line, automatically draws a perpendicular. Okay, so these snaps are quite useful. Initially you might not use it as much as you should, but you will find that as weeks progress, that's a very handy tool to have. So please make sure you pin your snaps on all your tabs, so it doesn't matter which tab you're working in, you always have your snaps open and handy. Okay, next what we're going to do is, I'm going to quickly delete this. So I'm going to go to element selection, select the whole thing and delete. We're going to see how to create levels. So on my primary panel here, okay, I've got a tool called Level Manager. So if I click on that, it opens up this little dialog box here. Okay, so here I'm going to say new level. Okay, now by default when you open up, every file has a default level. You cannot delete it, so leave it, but you can create as many levels as you need. Okay, so I'm going to say new. I'll call this level draw. Okay, now I can give it any color. For this demonstration, I'm going to give it various colors, but for your class, keep it in black and white. Now, you already know that your draw level has to be always continuous, and your thickness, okay, so now you would select your thickness, select it, you need it to be thicker than the rest, so I'm selecting 2. I'm going to say new. I'm going to call this level hidden. Okay, I'll give it a different color. I'll give it red, just so that you can see all the different colors on your screen. Now line type, I'm going to say, now we want hidden line type, so I'm going to select 2, and thickness is default. Remember, they are thin dash lines, so thin dashed lines. Okay, new again, center, I'll give this maybe magenta. Line type 4, again it's a thin chain line, so 0 is the thinnest. Create one more for text. I'll keep it all at 0 because they are continuous thin lines. Now I've just created a few levels. You can create as many levels as you need. Now I'm closing this. Okay, now if I start drawing, I'll probably just draw a rectangle. It's still black, didn't take any color. Reason being, I haven't assigned it to any level. So if I go here, okay, I don't want the templates, but if I go here to default, what I'm going to do is I'll just get rid of that. Yeah. Now if I go to default and select draw, okay, so I want to draw, and now if I draw a rectangle in that level, see, it's taken all the properties that I assigned to the level manager. If I want to move this square from default to draw, All I need to do is select the entity and move it to where you want it to go. See that? It's taken the properties of draw. Now, how do you know what level it's in? If you select it, okay, you would notice that right at the bottom, it tells you level draw. Okay, so you know you are in the right level. Also, it has taken the properties that you've created in the draw level. So if I say center, and I want to draw a center line, notice that the pattern is a long line, a short line, a long line, a short line. So it's taken a center line pattern. Okay. If I want to draw a hidden line, I'm just going to draw some random lines. Notice that the pattern is a thin dashed line. Okay. So every time you want to draw a line with different properties, select the level where you've created those properties. Okay, so select the level and that will take on the properties. Now you can start drawing. And remember, if you make a mistake, you do not have to delete it. All you need to do is select the entity and move it to the level you want it to go to. And that's done. Okay, so far what have we seen? We've seen how to pin the snaps panel. We've seen how to create text styles, dimension styles, how to create levels, and how to draw in those levels. Now, one little last thing that I wanted to show you guys is how to insert a CAD cell. Okay, so I'll go to Utilities. Okay, so I'm going to go to Utilities and see here, there's a whole lot of panels in Utilities. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to insert a CAD cell. Okay, so here you have a signature cell. So if you have a digital signature, you can insert it as a cell, but we don't want to do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Annotate, okay, Cells, okay, and here under Cell Selector, we have an option for Cell Selector. So I'm going to go to Cell Selector, identify where my cell is, and then insert it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the session now, but in the next session, I'm going to show you how to insert a CAD cell and how to fill it, and then maybe some drawing tips and tricks. Thank you for watching.